Hi guys, I am Rhea. Today I am going to talk about Saturn in Aquarius from 2020 to 2023. We're going to discuss how Saturn in Aquarius is going to impact the collective, and then very briefly I'm going to talk about how the Saturn in Aquarius transit is going to affect each sun and rising sign. However, before we begin, I want to let you know that I am doing a talk on Saturn through the houses with Synchronicity University on July 21st, 2021. Please sign up. It would be great to have you all, and you'll find the details in the description box below. I also want to let you know that I do daily video horoscopes, weekly video horoscopes, monthly video horoscopes, and monthly sun rising sign video horoscopes. You can watch them all on my YouTube channel called Realm of Astrology or on my website called www.realmofastrology.com. So now let's begin. So Saturn has been in Aquarius since December of 2020 and will be still March of 2023. And Saturn did come into the sign of Aquarius in March of 2020. However, it did retrograde back into Capricorn and fully entered the sign of Aquarius for good in December of 2020. We will discuss all that, but I thought you should know that Saturn in Aquarius is a transit from 2020 to 2023. So let's begin. What are we going to cover today? We're going to cover 5 important things. First is Saturn. What is Saturn and what does it want from us? So we'll talk a little bit about that, and then we will move on to Saturn transit, how they impact us, what changes they bring in general, and then we will talk about the energy of Aquarius, what Aquarius rules, what energy it is. And then we will move on to Saturn in Aquarius and the important transits as Saturn makes its way through Aquarius. And then to wrap it all up, I'm going to talk about what all this might mean for your sun or rising sign. Okay, so let's begin with Saturn. What is Saturn? Saturn is the planet of this reality, but Saturn is a planet of hard work, discipline, karma, destiny, time. It is also the builder of the zodiac. It builds things, and it is what provides structure to everything. Saturn also rules constriction, restrictions, fears, delays, and time. And Saturn is also the planet of self-mastery. Yes, it wants self-mastery from us. And as feared as Saturn is, Saturn also rules the highest point in the chart, which means it rules the highest rewards. With Saturn, as long as you put in the work, as long as you master yourself, it will bring you the highest reward. And these rewards last in time. These rewards are long lasting. So that's what Saturn is. But most importantly, what we need to know is that Saturn is the planet that rules this material reality. And that is why it has the most visible impact on this world. And that is why as Saturn transits through different signs, we see certain themes come up in very visible and powerful ways. So that's what Saturn is. It's a planet that demands hard work, discipline, and also rules fears, delays, and all these things. And the purpose of Saturn is so that you can master yourself. Moving on to what it wants from us. I did mention what it wants from us briefly, but it wants us to learn our life lessons. That's one. It wants us to grow and develop into mature and wise adults. It rules old age as well. So that's what Saturn wants, maturity and wisdom. And it wants us to cultivate self-discipline, self-mastery. And for that, Saturn puts us through learning times, through hard times, through difficult times. And Saturn is a tough taskmaster. It is a tough taskmaster. However, If we do all these things that I mentioned, that Saturn wants from us, it will reward us. Rewards that are long lasting, rewards that are unlike any other. And this is at a personal level. But what about the collective? And this is where Saturn transits come in. When Saturn transits a particular sign in the collective, we see some restructuring connected to matters associated with that sign. And this is because Saturn is the ruler of this reality. It is the very fabric of this reality. So that's what happens when Saturn goes through a particular sign for the collective. We restructure things in our reality, connected to that sign. Now let's talk about the Saturn in Aquarius transit. So like I said, Saturn entered Aquarius in 2020, 21st March 2020 till July 1st, 2020, and then retrograded back into Capricorn. And finally, on 17th December 2020, it re-entered the sign of Aquarius to stay there till 7th March 2023. So Saturn transits are not short. They define 2 to 3 years of our lives, individually and as a collective as well. Now, let's talk about Aquarius before we get into Saturn in Aquarius. So Aquarius is the 11th sign of the zodiac. Okay, Aquarian energy is intellectual, it's logical, it's scientific, it's revolutionary, it's rebellious. Aquarius rules rebellion, it rules humanity, it rules equality. So Aquarius is a very of the people, for the people kind of sign. Okay, but Aquarius is also the scientist. Aquarius is also the one that moves ahead really fast. So Aquarius rules science, innovation, technology. It also rules the internet because Aquarius rules information. And Aquarius is the 11th sign. It is also responsible for the groups that we belong to, the organizations that we're part of. It's also the sign that rules our hopes, our dreams, our goals, our wishes. And most importantly, Aquarius is the sign of the future. And believe it or not, astrology also fits into the realm of Aquarius. Now, to sum it up, the Aquarian energy is the most futuristic of all energies. It is the most scientific. It is the most equal. Everything is equal in the eyes of Aquarius. So that's what Aquarius is. So you can only imagine what Saturn in Aquarius will bring. As I had mentioned a few moments ago, Saturn transiting through a particular sign for the collective will restructure matters associated with that sign. Right? So in this case, Saturn through Aquarius from 2020 to 2023 will restructure how we think about equality, how we think about humanity, how we think about peace. And peace, when Saturn is in Aquarius, usually comes after a little bit of strife, because Aquarius is also rebellion. And Saturn in Aquarius transit will also restructure science and technology, innovation. In a way, it will restructure the future. And I think it has been doing that. And two very important things I'd like to mention is that when Saturn is in Aquarius, the internet seems to play a very, very important role. When Saturn was in Aquarius in the 1960s, so Saturn transits a particular sign after 28 to 30 years. So the last time Saturn was in Aquarius was between 91 to 94. And before that, Saturn was in Aquarius from 62 to 64. That being said, what happened? Why am I talking about this? I'm telling you this again connected to the internet. In 1962, the idea of the internet came about. It happened at MIT, and it was a professor. I'm not even going to talk about the name because I cannot pronounce it. He was a computer scientist in 1962. He came up with the idea for a global computer network, which in the 1990s developed further and came about to the public is the World Wide Web, and that was 91. So every time Saturn is in Aquarius, we see something major happen with the internet. And now again, Saturn is in Aquarius. And I think with all that is happening globally, the way we are connecting is through the internet. So to sum it up, Saturn in Aquarius changes things in a powerful way with the internet, with how information is processed and transferred and shared. And it also changes things with astrology, because Aquarius rules astrology. So on a global collective level, that is what we will see. A lot of restructuring of equality, a lot of restructuring towards moving towards peace, a lot of scientific innovation and progress, a lot of developments when it comes to the internet and astrology, and setting the base for the future. This is the time where all the innovations, where majority of the innovations for the future are set in foundation. The foundation for those is set for the next 28, 30 years. So that's what Saturn in Aquarius will bring. And like I said, every sign has a negative. So what is the negative of Aquarius? There is a positive manifestation and there's a negative manifestation. The positive manifestation of Aquarius is progress, is science and innovation, is the future, is our hopes, goals and dreams, is equality, is peace, is the internet, is astrology. And what is the negative? The negative of Aquarius is isolation, social alienation, coldness. And in some ways, we have been witnessing that as well. And this is where it becomes important to embrace the other side of Aquarius, which is Leo, which is love, which is our heart, which is connection. So as we move through Saturn in Aquarius, we have to make sure that we don't get cold, we don't alienate ourselves, we don't isolate ourselves, and we always work from a place of our heart, Leo. Now, that's the basic. So in these 3 years, we'll see a lot of progress in science, in technology, in innovation, in moving towards peace, in moving towards equality. And this might happen after some sort of rebellion, some sort of revolution, some sort of strife. And we know that it's a big, big deal, big time for the internet. Now, that being said, what are the important transits of 2020-2023 Saturn in Aquarius? Well, I'm going to talk about 3 transits and we'll go over them one by one. And the first transit that I'm going to talk about is the Saturn-Pluto conjunction. Now, this conjunction happened in Capricorn. So it's a little before Saturn coming into Aquarius. This conjunction that I'm talking about, Saturn and Pluto in Capricorn, happened in January of 2020. And soon after this, Saturn left Capricorn and entered Aquarius in March of 2020. And the reason I want to talk about Saturn-Pluto conjunction in Capricorn is because it sets the foundation for Saturn in Aquarius. So we'll discuss that. That's one. The second transit I want to talk about is known as the Great Conjunction. It is the conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter. And this is also a big deal, and we will discuss that. And this happened in Aquarius. And the third transit that I want to discuss is the most important event of 2021. And this energy will be with us all year and even into next year. And that is the Saturn-Uranus square. That being said, all these transits that I'm talking about right now make this Saturn in Aquarius transit all the more special, all the more potent, all the more powerful. Why? Because when Saturn was in Aquarius last time, through 91 to 94, we did not have a Saturn-Pluto conjunction. We did not have Saturn and Jupiter conjunct in Aquarius, and we did not have the Saturn-Uranus square. And the same goes for 60s. We did not have any of these things back in the 60s as Saturn made its way through Aquarius. It's only now that we are seeing something really special take place, something really powerful take place. So let's go over these transits one by one. And the first transit is the Saturn-Pluto conjunction. Now, Saturn is the ruler of this reality and Pluto is transformation. It's the end of something as we know it and the beginning of something new. Total transformation is what Pluto is. And when these two meet up, as they did on 12th Jan 2020, they change things. They transform our material reality in a powerful way. Pluto transformation, Saturn material reality, they transform our material reality. And that is what happened beginning Jan of 2020. Now, the important thing is that they met up in Capricorn. And Capricorn is the sign ruled by Saturn. Okay, which means Capricorn is a material reality. So when they met up in Jan of 2020, they changed our material reality in a doubly powerful way. And to put this into context, Saturn and Pluto conjunct once in 33 to 38 years. So it's a rare event. And the last time they met up, they conjuncted, was in 1982. And they changed something back then, but not as powerfully as Jan of 2020. And that's because they met up in Capricorn, which is the fabric of this reality. And the last time they met up in Capricorn was in the 1500s. So we are seeing this conjunction, a Saturn-Pluto conjunction in Capricorn after almost 500 years. And that's a big deal. And 2 months later, 2 months after this conjunction, as this conjunction changes on material reality, Saturn enters Aquarius. So this is the context, this is the background that Saturn in Aquarius has, that Saturn in Aquarius has to work with, that Saturn in Aquarius has to mold for the future. So that's one. Now let's talk about the Saturn-Jupiter conjunction. Now this is known as the Great Conjunction, and this is also a rare event. This happens once in about 20 years. And astrologers typically use this conjunction to assess what the era of the next 20 years will bring. And it is also a point where we begin a new cycle. We end the old Saturn-Jupiter conjunction cycle and begin a new one. Now, this conjunction was very special. First, it happened in the sign of Aquarius at 0 degrees. And this happened on December 21st, 2020. But why was it special? It was special because Saturn and Jupiter met up in an air sign after 200 years. So it's not just a 20-year cycle that we are ending and beginning. It's a 200-year cycle that we are closing out the energy of and beginning a new one. Now, what is that energy we're closing and what is the energy we are coming into? So Saturn and Jupiter for the past 200 years until December 2020 were meeting up, were conjuncting in earth signs. Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn. And what that means is that our focus, our energy was invested in earth-related matters, in our security, in our material security, in agriculture, in things that come from the earth. Everything was about sustaining ourselves, finding stability from the ground, from the material reality. And now, after 200 years, for the first time, they conjuncted in an air sign, which is all about intellectual things. Air is an intellectual energy. And what is Aquarius? Aquarius is innovation. Aquarius is science. Aquarius is tech. Aquarius is equality, humanity, even our consciousness is Aquarius. Information. And this conjunction began a powerful new beginning in all intellectual things, in all things connected to innovation, science, tech, equality, consciousness. And the internet, of course, and even astrology. And for the next at least 20 years, the focus will be all air-related things. How do we progress? Intellectual energy, internet, information, processing things, science, tech, facts. That's what the new Aquarius cycle will bring. And this is a major change from focusing on how we can get food, how we can get shelter, how we can get our monetary possessions, how we can stay safe, how we can be secure. Those were all earth-related matters that we have been facing for the past 200 years. And now it will be, how do you progress scientifically? How do we progress on the internet? How do we get, store, receive, process information? How do we find peace? How do we find equality? How do we raise our consciousness? These are all Aquarian things. These are all air things. So that's what the future, at least for the next 20 years, will entail. And we've had a powerful new beginning with Saturn in Aquarius when they conjuncted. So this is a rare Saturn in Aquarius transit, unlike any other we have seen in a long, long time, at least 60 years. At least. Even longer, actually. I'd have to do the math, but even longer. Now, the third transit I want to talk about is Saturn and Uranus square. Now, before that, let me tell you a little bit about Saturn, and then we'll talk about Uranus very briefly, just so that I can explain properly what this square is all about. And this is the most important event of 2021. And to put this into context, these planets are squaring after almost 21 years. So that's a long time. And this is also a rare event. It does not happen every time Saturn is in Aquarius. And Saturn and Uranus are going to square 3 times this year. The square is going to come exact 3 times. One in Feb, one in June, and one in December. However, we will feel the energy throughout the year because they'll be in a close orb. And even into next year. Okay? And very briefly, Saturn is the traditional planet. It is the planet that restricts. It's the planet of rules. It's the planet of hard work, discipline, decisions, control, and the old. It's the planet that rules the old. And what is Uranus? Uranus is the new. It's the awakener. It awakens you spiritually. It takes your consciousness higher. And it will get rid of anything that prevents you from being your authentic self, because Uranus is also uniqueness. It's your unique identity. It's your unique self. And Uranus is the planet that rules Aquarius. So Aquarius is also your unique self. Aquarius is also your authentic self. And the purpose of Uranus is to get rid of anything that will prevent you from being you, that will prevent you from reaching a higher level of consciousness. It is also the planet responsible for insights or downloads, so to speak. Uranus is the planet of rebellion. It is the rebel of the zodiac. It is the most new age planet, you can say. If Saturn says tradition, Uranus says no tradition. That's the difference. And if Saturn likes rules, Uranus likes to break them. If Saturn is all about this material reality, Uranus says, go beyond this material reality, go to your consciousness. Everything is about your consciousness. So that's the energy. And Uranus is unexpected. It's shocking. Saturn will slow time down. Uranus will speed time up. So these two planets, although Saturn used to rule Aquarius before Uranus was given the rulership, although Saturn and Uranus energies are very different. Saturn is old, it's traditional, it's restrictive, it rules. It's about rules, it's about order, it's about structure, it's about hierarchy. And Uranus is, hey, it's all about equality. It's all about humanity. It's all about raising your consciousness. It's all about embracing your uniqueness. So that's the two energy. Now, a square is a 90-degree angle. It represents friction, it represents change, and it does not feel very easy. So when these two planets square, such opposing forces, such different energies, what can we expect? Well, it's definitely not going to feel easy. It's going to demand change. And that's what this energy is about, change. And what are we changing? We're changing. We're getting rid of old things, old structures, old thought patterns, old anything, and embracing the new. And it's also about, at a personal level, getting rid of the idea of who you think you should be and being who you actually are, your unique self. And one thing I want to mention before we move on, which I believe is important, is that Saturn in Aquarius wants equality through individuality, and that's important. It does not want equality through conformity. No, it does not. It wants equality through individuality. We can all be different. We are all different and still be equal. And that's the message of Aquarius. That's what Uranus wants. That's what happens when you raise your consciousness. You realize everybody is equal, you realize everybody is equal yet unique. Now moving on to this square. So this square is about getting rid of old structures, old thought patterns, old rules, old hierarchies, old anything, and embracing the new. And at a personal level, it's also about finding your uniqueness, your authentic self, who you truly are, and embracing it. And like I said, it's a square, so the energy will not feel very easy. And I want to mention that this cycle of Saturn in Aquarius, astrology is about cycles. It starts with a conjunction and ends with the conjunction. So Saturn and Uranus conjuncted, met up in 1988 in the sign of Sagittarius, and that's when this cycle began. And this cycle is nowhere near complete. It's going to complete in 2032. So we have a good 11 years to go before we see any sort of culmination of this cycle. And I thought it's important to know that, because all the changes we are making will facilitate us, but it's not the end of those changes. We are at a point where this is the point where we make the most changes, and then this cycle will play out till 2032. So it's a long-term thing. Saturn is a long-term thing. Everything associated with Saturn is long-term, because Saturn is the builder. Long-term, builds for the long term. Now, I will briefly go over all this and try to make sense of it, connect it to your rising sign. And I believe this is more accurate for your rising sign than it is for your sun sign, although it does apply to your sun sign as well. Personally, I feel it's more accurate for your rising sign. And if the rising sign doesn't resonate with you, you may want to go to the previous or the next rising sign, because sometimes there's a difference in timing depending on where your rising sign starts, which degree. So I just thought I'd mention that, and we'll begin with Aries, and I'm going to go over 4 things. I'm going to go over where Saturn is in your chart right now and what you can expect, where Saturn Pluto conjuncted and how it changed your reality, the great conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter, where it happened in your chart, and what that beginning was for you possibly, and the Saturn-Uranus square, where the tug of war between the old and the new will be highlighted in your chart. So we'll start with Aries, and Saturn Aries is in your 11th house right now, and wherever Saturn is, we are asked to work hard, we are asked to be disciplined, and the rewards come in later, and the transit feels rather difficult. And this is connected to the groups you're part of, the social circle you belong to, not your closest friends, but the social circle, the organizations, the groups, and also your hopes, goals, and dreams. So this is where Saturn's asking you to work hard. And the Saturn-Pluto conjunction in January of 2020 that began a new cycle that will stay with us till 2053 happened in your house of career. So there was a new powerful shift in your career, Aries, in January of 2020. And the great conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter happened in your 11th house of social circle, hopes, goals, and dreams. And that's where the new beginning of the 20 years is for you. And Saturn and Uranus are squaring between your 11th and 2nd house, which means that the themes that will come to surface with the Saturn-Uranus square for you are connected to your social circle, hopes, goals, and dreams versus your self-worth, values, skills, finances, and monetary possessions. So that's what it is for you, Aries. A lot of focus on your 11th house, social circle, hopes, goals, and dreams in the future. And science and tech, if that applies to you. Taurus, for you, Saturn right now is transiting your 10th house, meaning you're required, you're asked to be disciplined and work hard towards matters of your career. And this will be there till 2023. Saturn and Pluto conjuncted in your 9th house, which means they began a new cycle for you connected with higher education, foreign travel, and your belief system. The great conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter happened in your 10th house, which means the powerful new beginning of 20 years is connected to your career. And Saturn and Uranus are squaring between your 10th and 1st house, meaning the themes they're going to highlight and bring to life are connected to your career and your identity. That's the tug of war you'll face, Taurus. Moving on to Gemini. Gemini, Saturn is in your 9th house right now, asking you to work towards put in order matters associated with foreign travel, higher education, and your belief system. Saturn and Pluto met up in January of 2020 in your 8th house, which means it was a powerful new beginning for your intimate relationships, for investments, for personal karma. And the 8th house is also occult things, it's also taboo things, so in those areas as well. And the great conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter happened in your 9th house, which means the beginning of 20 years starting in December of 2020 for you, Gemini, was connected to higher education, foreign travel, and your belief system. Now, Saturn and Uranus are going to square between your 9th and 12th house, meaning the tug of war between the old and the new will be between your belief system, foreign travel, higher education, versus your subconscious mind, your spirituality. If drugs, addictions apply to you, then in those areas as well. Cancer, Saturn is transiting your 8th house right now. And what that means is it's asking you to work towards your intimate relationships, to investments, towards occult things, towards personal karma. And Saturn and Pluto conjuncted in your 7th house in January of 2020, beginning a new powerful cycle, a shift in your reality connected to your relationships, connected to your marriage, connected to your business partnerships, and perhaps even legal issues. And the great conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter happened in your 8th house, meaning another new beginning of 20 years happened in matters connected to your intimate relationships, connected to investments, and connected to personal karma. Saturn and Uranus are squaring off between your 8th and 11th house, meaning the tug of war between the old and the new will highlight matters connected to your investments, intimate relationships, personal karma, versus the groups you belong to, the hopes, goals, and dreams you have for the future, and science and tech if you're into that. Leo, Saturn is transiting your 7th house right now, asking you to work towards and put in check matters associated with your relationships, with your marriage, with your business partnerships, and legal issues. And Saturn and Pluto conjuncted in January of 2020 in your 6th house, which meant it was a powerful new beginning for you in terms of your health, your day-to-day routine, in terms of your job. And the great conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter happened in your 7th house, which means it was a powerful new beginning for you when it comes to relationships, when it comes to business partnerships, marriage even, and legal issues, of course. And Saturn and Uranus are squaring off between your 7th and 10th house, meaning this tug of war between the old and the new will be between your career and your relationships, marriage, business partnerships, and legal issues. Virgo, Saturn is transiting your 6th house, asking you to put in check matters associated with health, with your day-to-day routine, and your job. Saturn and Pluto met up conjuncted in your fifth house in January of 2020, and it was a powerful new beginning for you when it was connected to your romance, to your love life, to children, to creativity, and even to hobbies and pleasure. And the great conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter happened in your sixth house, which means it's a powerful new beginning for you in terms of your health, your job, your day-to-day routine. And Saturn and Uranus are squaring off between your sixth and ninth house, bringing to light in this tug of war between the old and the new matters associated with health, day-to-day routine, job versus your belief system versus your higher education and foreign travel. Libra, Saturn is transiting your fifth house right now, which means you're asked to work hard towards matters associated with romance, children, hobbies, leisure, creativity. And Saturn and Pluto conjuncted in your fourth house in January of 2020, beginning a powerful new cycle in matters associated with your deepest emotions, your home, your family, your foundation, and property. The great conjunction Libra happened in your fifth house, beginning a new cycle for you for the next 20 years in terms of your romance, in terms of children, creativity, pleasure, and hobbies. And Saturn and Uranus are squaring between your fifth and eighth house, meaning the tug of war between the old and the new will highlight areas associated with romance, children, creativity on one hand, and intimate relationships, investments, and personal karma on the other. Scorpio, Saturn is transiting your fourth house right now, asking you to work towards and put in order your deepest emotions, your home, your family, your foundation, your roots, where you come from, and even your property matters. Saturn and Pluto conjuncted on Jan 12th in your third house in 2020 and began a new beginning connected to your mind, connected to how you communicate, connected to your immediate environment and surroundings, and even your siblings. And writing if you're into that. And the great conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter happened in your fourth house, meaning a new powerful cycle began for you of 20 years connected to your home, family, foundation, deepest emotions, property. And Saturn and Uranus squaring off between your fourth and seventh house, meaning the tug of war between the old and the new will highlight areas connected to your home, family, foundation, deepest emotions on one hand, and your marriage, business partnerships, legal issues on the other. Sagittarius, Saturn is transiting your third house right now, and as it is transiting your third house, it is asking you to put in order matters connected to your mind, to communication, to writing if you're into that, to your immediate environment and your siblings. Saturn and Pluto, Sagittarius, conjuncted in your second house in January of 2020, which was a powerful new beginning for you in terms of your self-worth, values, skills, and material possessions and finances. And the great conjunction Sagittarius of Saturn and Jupiter happened in your third house, another new cycle of 20 years in matters associated with your mind, writing, communication, immediate environment, and siblings. And Saturn and Uranus are squaring off between your third and sixth house, meaning that the tug of war between the old and the new will encompass areas connected to your mind, communication, siblings, immediate environment on one hand, and your health, job, day-to-day routine on the other. Capricorn, Saturn is transiting your second house right now, meaning matters associated with your self-worth, values, skills, and finances are being asked to work on. Saturn and Pluto conjuncted in your first house in January of 2020, which was a powerful change and beginning for you when it comes to your identity, Capricorn, who you are, how you present yourself to the world. The great conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter happened in your second house, which was a powerful new beginning for you when it comes to self-worth, value, skills, and finances. And Saturn and Uranus Capricorn are squaring off between your second and fifth house. This is the tug of war that will highlight matters associated with your self-worth, value, skills, finances, material possession on one hand, and your creativity, children, romance, pleasure, hobbies on the other. Aquarius, Saturn is transiting your first house right now, asking you to work on yourself, your identity, how you present yourself to the world, how the world sees you, and even your appearance. Aquarius. Saturn and Pluto conjuncted in your 12th house, which means it was a powerful new beginning for you when it comes to your subconscious mind and your spirituality. And in some ways, it was also a powerful ending to the past. And the great conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter happened in your first house. A new cycle began for the next 20 years, which is very closely associated with your identity, who you are, how you present yourself to the world, and your appearance even. And Saturn and Uranus are squaring off between your first and fourth house, which means the tug of war between the old and the new will be highlighted in matters associated with your home, your family, your foundation, your roots, your deepest emotions on one hand, and you, your identity, who you are, how you present yourself to the world, how the world sees you, your appearance on the other. Pisces, Saturn is transiting your 12th house right now, which means it's closing out the past for you. It's also asking you to work towards your subconscious mind, your spirituality, and drugs and addictions if those apply to you. Depression is also a part of the 12th house, so if that applies to you as well. Saturn and Pluto conjuncted in January of 2020, beginning a new powerful cycle in your 11th house of social circle, groups, and acquaintances that you have, and your hopes, goals, and dreams, and science, tech, and innovation, if that applies to you. The great conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter happened in your 12th house, which means it was a powerful new beginning of 20 years connected to matters of your subconscious mind, your spirituality, and drugs, addictions, depression, if those apply to you. And Saturn and Uranus are squaring between your 12th and the 3rd house, meaning the tug of war between the old and the new will highlight matters associated with your mind, your communication, your immediate environment, your siblings, your peer group on one hand, and your subconscious mind, your spirituality on the other hand. And if drugs, delusions, addictions, depression apply to you, then those as well. And that was Saturn and its transits through the houses from 2020 to 2023, through the signs, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. To sum it up, Saturn in Aquarius brings about massive change in terms of technology, in terms of the internet, in terms of how we communicate, in terms of our consciousness. And it wants peace, it wants equality, it wants humanity. And on a personal level, I told you what these changes might mean for you depending on your rising sign. And this Saturn in Aquarius transit is unlike any other, because it came after the Saturn-Pluto conjunction in Capricorn, which we haven't seen since the 1500s. We are seeing the Saturn-Jupiter conjunction in an air sign, Aquarius, after 200 years. And then we are seeing Saturn in Uranus square after 21 years. None of the other Saturn in Aquarius transit had these transits. None of them. For a long, long time. So what we are witnessing is once in a lifetime. It's rare. And I believe that all these transits put together will only intensify the Saturn in Aquarius energy, which is about breaking free, which is about humanity, which is about equality, which is about elevating our consciousness, which is about spreading, processing information. However, on the other hand, this transit can, in a very powerful way, also isolate us. It can also alienate us, and it can also make us cold. Because the Saturn in Aquarius energy is so magnified. So we must not let ourselves become cold. We must always have heart. We must always have love and warmth within us. And that's all I'll leave you with. Again, I will mention that I'm doing a talk on Saturn through the houses on July 21st, 2021 with Synchronicity University. Do sign up. And I do daily video horoscopes, weekly video horoscopes, monthly video horoscopes, monthly sun, rising sign video horoscopes. And you can watch them all on my YouTube channel called Realm of Astrology. or on my website called www.realmofastrology.com. And I hope you guys enjoyed this and have a great day. Bye.